What is up, gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode on the channel. On today's episode, we'll be looking at how you can unleash your creative potential and how you can harness the power of creativity for benefits in your day-to-day life. Before we get started, let's explain why creativity matters. Why is it so important? Is creativity just for the artists? Is it just for the musicians? Is it just for those that are in La La Land, creating things that can never be conceived and can never return true? Well, can creativity actually have a practical impact in how we approach our lives and how we make our lives better and how we make the lives of those around us better? Well, actually, this is what I want to discuss in this episode. I believe as a designer and as a business owner and as someone who is trying to get better every single day, I've noticed that creativity gives me one fundamental tool in my arsenal that allows me to overcome pretty much anything. And that is the idea that any problem I have, I can use creativity to solve it. I can find creative ways to overcome challenges in my life in all shapes and forms. And this is what I want you to understand, is why creativity is so important. Creativity allows us to create so many things, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's coming up with a problem or a solution for a business problem. Creativity gives us the key necessary to overcome any problem that we may face, and problems come in all shapes and sizes. So if you guys are interested in how to harness your creative potential, tune into this episode. You guys are in for a good one. Number one, and this may seem as an obvious step, but it is to just make time for creativity. Think of your day, think of the things you do on a day-to-day basis and how little time you have for creative thinking, for the ability to build the muscle of creativity. Most likely you wake up in the morning and you go to the gym, and then you go to work, and then you come home and you go to sleep. And this is a routine that is repeated over and over and over again. Think of how little time you've had to actually harness your creativity. Every single day, you need to look at and give yourself the opportunity to be creative, even in ways that are so minor. Even if it's learning how to play the guitar, even if it's learning how to draw, even if it's learning how to overcome a problem, whether it's a math problem, whether it's a science problem, just give yourself the opportunity in small and controlled ways to be more creative. As you get into the habit of creative and being creative and harnessing that ABCD step of tapping into your creative side and knowing what triggers your creative flow, you'll find yourself more prone towards creativity in ways that are much more subtle in your day-to-day life. I find that the problems that I have to face, I do so in a creative way. Whether that's a business problem and all of a sudden, for some reason, a machine at the office is not working. Instead of just looking at it at face value, I think of creative ways to overcome this. Whether that's borrowing another machine, or whether that's trying to find ways to Google the problem or to find ways to troubleshoot the problem. My creative brain kicks into gear in a way that is very practical, but also tapped into that creative side. And that's the practical benefit of creativity, is that it just gives you the keys to problem solve. Number two is that you need to embrace mistakes as a key part of creativity. Creation is not a final solution. Creation gives you the opportunity to have many trials at solving a problem. If you're faced with a problem and you give up at the first attempt, and you stop your creative side, well, you'll never end up with the solution to that problem. Creation gives you more trials. It gives you more batting attempts to hit that home run. And this is the power of creativity. When you're trying your creativity for the first time, for the first couple of times, understand that your creativity will fail. You may not come up with something original. You may hate the thing that you may come up with. You may find that the thing you had in your mind is not executed the way that you had in mind. But that's a simple part of creativity. Creativity is a process. It's not a destination. It's the attempt at coming up with creative solutions. But whether those solutions work or not is irrelevant. You need to keep your creativity kicking into gear. Honestly, the more failures, the more setbacks you face in your creativity, the stronger that muscle will grow, because you'll learn to overcome the challenges, the setbacks that you face. You'll learn how to think creatively about thinking creatively. Let me give you an example of how to think creatively about thinking creative. Whenever I have a design problem, I'm a fashion designer and I work with a team to design thousands of products for our customers every single year. And each of these products that we design has to be unique, has to be individual, has to be 100% tailored towards our clients' requests. Think about the amount of creativity that takes. Sometimes, even in my core creative flow, which is, okay, look at the client's requirements, start to dissect it, start to look at inspiration images on Pinterest, go onto fashion forecasting websites. I face issues. I face, oh, I've seen that before, or that doesn't work with the brand. I start to take the problems and the obstacles that I'm facing in my creative pursuit and think creatively about how to overcome that. So let's just say I'm taking some of the inspiration for a specific product from a fashion forecasting website, but I feel that it doesn't match the client's identity. So there I have to think creatively about maybe going to the client's brand book, maybe identifying specific elements within their logos, within their word mark, to extract and to blend in with the other creative side that I'm going into. And this is the power of creativity. You can stack creativity over each other, and that's how you truly create innovative ideas. Number 3 is that you must always look for inspiration in unexpected places. Most people, they might think of creativity as something divine, as something that comes to them all of a sudden at the stroke of midnight, and there's going to be this miraculous feat of creation and inspiration. But that could not be further from the truth. You must surround yourself with impetuses for creativity, with inspiration points, whether that's architecture, whether that's books, whether that's TV programs, whether that's A, B, C, D, whatever it is that you find you respond to that actually stokes your inspiration, that stokes your imagination. You need to continuously be stoking and lighting that fire. For me, I know that I respond really well to the things that I read. It gives me new opportunities to think about things in creative ways. It opens me up to others' ideas that then I build off of using my creative foundation. So find what you get inspired by and continuously feed that inspiration and nourish yourself on a day-to-day basis. Make it a part of your routine, whether that's to meditate so that you can clear your mind, whether that's to read a book, whether that's to watch specific types of films or specific types of videos, whatever it is that you find gives you that sense of inspiration that creates a stronger clarity in your mind. There's a very well-known documentation that says some of the designers at Louis Vuitton or the creative directors at Louis Vuitton expose themselves to thousands of images before designing a new collection. They'll literally go into a room and just look at thousands and thousands of random images. It could be an image of a hummingbird, it could be an image of a green grass, it could be an image of a train, whatever it is. They look at all of these normal objects and they just stack that inspirational imagery into their mind, and it's from those items subconsciously that they find their creative output. They blend them together, and that's where they've come from. You can do this in similar ways and in ways that are more personalized to you. It needs, and it will highly depend on what you respond to as a creative person. Number 4 is to never be afraid to experiment with new mediums and new techniques of creativity. When it comes to creation and when it comes to getting your ideas out, you have so many different methods at your fingertips. You can write using pen and paper. You can write using a pencil, right? That sensation of writing with pen and paper and pencil is completely different. You can type them out. You can use 3D modeling technology. You can use AR, you could use VR. You could use so many different types of technologies, whether it's AI based as well, artificial intelligence based, to just stoke your creativity. There's no two methods that are alike, and there's no two methods that are going to give you the same result. What you need to do is to expose yourself to as many different mediums as you can to get you into the flow of get you into the flow of creation, of being creative, of exposing yourself, of opening up your mind to the possibilities and to the probabilities that are out there. Number 6, and last but definitely not least, is to never be afraid to think outside of the box. Out of the box thinking is such a cliche, and honestly it's an often misunderstood representation of a core concept. This just means to never be afraid to think without constraints, to never be afraid to ask the questions of what if, to never be afraid to go down a path that you feel is less traveled. Because it's in these explorations, it's in these challenges of going down an alley, going down the dark path that is not illuminated, that doesn't have so much source material, that doesn't have so much imagery attached to it, that you really find yourself coming up with creative solutions. It is in these strongest scenarios where we are forced to think the most creatively, to have to overcome the strongest problems, the most complex problems, that we find ourselves really getting to the flow and really tapping into our creative potential. I was a student of architecture and I graduated as an architect. And the one thing that I could really take away from my entire experience studying to become an architect was creative thinking, problem solving. We looked at architecture not as a medium of designing buildings, but as a medium of solving human problems. Whether that was to establish a way to bring people into the building by looking at the site forces, at the different location of the sun, location of public highways, location of pedestrian walkways, tapping into all of these things to come up with a solution that may seem outlandish, that may seem completely not heard of before. Sure, in some scenarios, this may not work, but that wasn't the point of the issue. The point was to think outside the box, to challenge yourself, to think of all problems as something that you can solve no matter what, no matter how many obstacles you have to overcome. This is the power of creative thinking, and this is the power of out-of-the-box thinking. It strips away the fear of, no, this won't work because no one's done it before, to, sure, this could work, but I just need to figure it out. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider smashing a massive thumbs up. I'm curious to hear from you guys if you've ever valued the aspect of creativity in the past. I know that creativity can sort of be looked at as a soft skill. It's not something that you might regard as a key part of living a disciplined and a good life, but honestly, I found that creativity allows you to benefit in so many areas in your business life, in your spiritual life, in your personal life, with your family. A good creative sense allows you to be more witty. It allows you to communicate better. It allows you to connect with people at a stronger and more fundamental base. And this is the power of creativity. So don't take it for granted and start harnessing today. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider smashing a massive thumbs up. It really does help me out. It really helps us to keep creating this content for you on a week-to-week basis. From the very bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Shadi TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.